All right, I'm with the wonderful, magnificent, incredible Doug Wood. We're speaking on a cruise for Michael Burt. How's your experience so far? You kicked us off.
Well, it's been amazing. I mean, being here with so many people who are just vibrating at a whole completely new frequency, like, you and I love spending time together. It's been an incredible 3 days. And the sunshine finally came out today,
Yeah,
too.
we got sunshine as of about 2 hours ago,
Yep.
so that's always good. But until the sunshine came out here, Doug and I just made it our personal mission to bring the sunshine in the boat.
Oh, hey-oh. Well, you know why I wear sunglasses, right?
Well, I mean, you're always shining so bright.
Yeah, my future's so bright.
So you just released, well, it's not released yet, but you had the kind of premiere of a documentary
Yeah.
of the massive Momentum Tour, which take us through because I found it really interesting talking with you about how you were, going through it, and obviously you start those things out gung ho, and then by the end of it you felt one way, but then getting to reflect on it and realizing what you actually accomplished made you kind of maybe rethink it
Yeah.
even more. Just tell me about that process. You impacted almost 15,000 lives. You were on the road for 90 days.
98 days.
98 days of pretty much just nonstop straight, back to back to back to
Yeah.
back to back to back stops.
So one more back. No, it was Greg. It was so powerful because last summer, and I know we got to partner together for the Denver event, and that was a powerful night. And it was amazing to see so many different people get together in one room, and everybody pretty much has the same goals. I want to be a better dad. I want to be a better spouse. I would like to do more. I'd like to make a bigger impact in my community. I'd like a better marriage. I want a bigger business.
Yeah.
And to come together and talk about what's really going on was powerful. But the great thing was, after 98 days, dude, we were spent. The great thing was Jeff, my guy, him and his wife, we documented the whole thing.
Yeah.
And behind the scenes, we were doing interviews and stuff. And the documentary is almost done. It's kind of going through some final editing. But I didn't realize it's a powerful personal development documentary because halfway through the tour, dude, we were spent. We wanted to quit. We could have just flown home or drove home. But you know what? You have to finish what you start. And that's also, you commit first and you do the action to follow. And it's amazing. It was cool, and I'm really happy. We helped a lot of people, but more than anything, I learned so much about myself and what our team could do when you just commit to something and you finish to what you committed.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's because it was such an interesting experience for me because I was the first event we got to go on together, and I got to see kind of the power. Like, I mean, this guy had his clothing line. Tia had her clothing line. And when I say it's not like your normal when you're bootstrapping, like, because for all intents and purposes you bootstrap this thing all yourself. Most people don't bootstrap things at the level this guy does. I mean, he had his RV wrapped. He had just merchandise. You came out with an amazing book, and his book party coming out. I mean, it was amazing. So everything you do is at such a high level, and that's kind of one of the things that obviously the final percent's all about is really going the final percent in all things, whether it's in a business, in bootstrapping, in a speech, in your marriage, in whatever it is. Where does that come from? Why do you want to do things at such a different level than everyone else? Where did it start?
For the longest time, Greg, I would make commitments to myself, I would have ideas, and I would say I was going to do something, but I wouldn't finish it. And I felt like I put myself on my pillow every single night, and I felt like, yeah, Doug, you did something, but you could have done more. And I got tired, honestly, of coming back to my house at night or a hotel room or wherever I was. And this is not on the tour. I'm talking years ago of going, dude, I keep making commitments to myself. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is pushing the snooze alarm on their alarm, because you already failed your first commitment to yourself. You set an alarm and you push snooze, and so you set a habit of doing everything 5 to 7 to 10 minutes late. And I reached a point to where it's like, if it's within my power, I mean, there's one thing to stretch for new things, but if I can control it, I just want to do things with excellence because I have to live with myself. How can we encourage and help other people if we can't just literally commit to ourselves, but also live with ourselves, saying, you know what, regardless of what happened,
Yeah.
I did the best with what I knew or thought was possible. And I've just kind of chosen to live that way the last 5 to 7 years. And yeah, it inspires others, but more than anything, I can live with myself.
So operating at such a high frequency all the
Mhm.
time, you're going through the massive momentum. You've built one of the biggest organizations in your industry. I mean, obviously, the way that you operate is really paying dividends on the inside and out. How can someone like you, who operates up there where most people are just like, gosh, I wish I could just even get to his starting point this last year, how are you still finding certain things out about yourself? Like how are you getting these big takeaways after a 98-day tour when it seems like you're already so, like, cuz I know that before I started my personal growth journey, one thing that I got into the bad habit of doing is looking at people like yourself and going, I just, like, they're saying they're still learning stuff at that level. I just want to be at that level.
Mhm.
Where do you go inside mentally, physically, just the different things to keep stretching yourself to become more? How are you doing that?
Well, it comes
Because
down to,
most people
yeah,
think enough's enough. Like,
right.
dude, you're good. I mean, you literally could stop right now and you're set financially,
Yeah.
but it's not about the money anymore.
No, a profit with purpose, and you have to get yourself. You got to take care of yourself. You got to
Mm.
get your bills taken care of. You even enjoy some nice things, and the quicker you do it, I realized years ago, Greg, I have a spending problem. So if I have a spending problem, I can either fix the spending problem. But come on now, I like retail therapy. Some people when they forget their drones at home, they go out and just buy 3 more. Uh, while
I don't
they're
know what you're talking about.
while they're in Miami. So you got the same problem I do. So we made a decision,
Yeah.
subconsciously or unconsciously,
Yeah.
that I'm just gonna always make more than I spend,
Yeah.
because there's no cap. I mean, there's infinite potential. Like God is trying to throw money at people. Like literally, I'm like you. We're magnets for success and growth and things around us because we've partnered with the laws of abundance by doing
Absolutely.
things right and doing things in order. And so when I chose to start partnering with these laws and doing everything with excellence, if I'm going to be faithful with what I've been given before asking for more. So I'm going to be faithful with doing simple things like paying your bills on time. I'm going to be faithful.
What a novel concept.
Oh, isn't that something? I'm going to be faithful even here on this cruise. I didn't do the drink package, okay? Because I don't know, I just didn't. It's only 2 days. I didn't think I'd have even soft drinks that much. And somebody the other night, I was sitting down, I was having a conversation with somebody, and they're like, "Hey, Doug, I have the drink package. Let me just order your drink." And I'm like, "No, I got it." And to me, I could have, but to me, that's missing a law of abundance. I didn't buy the drink package, so that drink, in my mind, would have been stolen. Does that make sense? Like
That's great.
my brain computes things like that, and it's not the $13 that I couldn't afford. It's principle. And when I started adopting these principles into my life, I started accepting the laws of abundance, but also I realized that, you know what? I got my bills paid. I want to have some nice stuff, but after that, you have to have purpose
Yeah.
to keep driving you. Otherwise, you will start smelling your own crap again.
Yep.
You'll kind of revert back to old patterns, old energies, and then you're just a miserable rich dude, and
Yeah.
nobody wants to be around that dude.
Exactly. Exactly. So so I often talk about the different levels of leadership. So I say, hey, what does a manager always say at the beginning of the day? And he always says, "Oh, I got to run around and I got to light a fire under everyone's ass. I got to light a fire under everyone's ass." And then later in the day, you talk to the manager after lunch, and you say, "Hey, what are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, dude, I'm just putting out fires." How many times have you heard a manager saying, "I'm putting out fires"?
Yeah.
Well, you started them.
And they wear it like a badge of honor.
Yeah, you literally you started your day saying, "I'm going to run around and light fires under people,"
Yeah.
and then you're wondering why you're putting fires out. So I say that the laws of leadership is you have your fire starters, managers are fire trucks. They have a finite amount of water. And real leaders are water towers. That's
Yeah.
where the fire truck goes to fill up again,
Right.
so that they can go put out fires and pour into their people. So my question to you is, obviously you pour into thousands upon thousands of people.
Yeah.
inside and outside of your company. Where do you fill your will up?
Hmm. Well, it comes in a few different orders. Number one is my favorite verse of the Bible is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But most people miss the I can. They just want Christ to strengthen them.
Ooh.
And they miss the I can, which I can means I take personal responsibility through Christ who strengthens me.
Wow,
And
that's good.
when I broke down and I realized I used to say I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I was like, Christ, come on, man, where you at, God? I need you. Another miracle. Doug's in trouble again.
Yeah.
And literally, when I started literally taking personal responsibility, and it's a partnership with God. So number one is my strength comes from Christ.
Wow, that's good.
Number two is morning routine. And, I don't always get into either the Bible or personal development or a podcast, but I always practice gratitude and staying in a place of gratitude, and which is to me is just inner peace.
Yeah.
And then of course just having my morning, different routines and stuff is really what I'm tapping into. But also, I have a zero tolerance policy for BS. I have a zero, similar to you. I have a zero tolerance policy for drama.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I'm not gonna play
Yeah.
in the sandbox that the world is playing in.
Amen.
Because it's broken. It's
It
just
is.
like, let's get real. Let's have real conversations. Otherwise, it's like, what are we doing here? Like, we can only
Exactly.
talk about how beautiful that water is for so long.
Yeah.
But like what we're doing right here, and this is nothing against anybody else on this boat or that's over here on the island right now.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to bet out of 2,000 people on this boat, you and I are probably, if not one of 2 or 3 or 4 people talking about real life stuff going on a boat right now while everyone else is over there getting an early start on their mojitos.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. We'll probably have one later today too.
Yeah.
But it's like we're doing things in order and that are just different.
Yeah.
While everybody else is, watching the Kardashians tonight.
Yeah.
I'm doing something that is going to edify my life or others and not just the Kardashians.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the things that we've had since we met at, I will say I wasn't a big fan of the whole GrowthCon experience because it's too pitch fest for me. But I will say, I mean, I've met great people there. And when you do get around other people who are trying to get better, who are trying to become more, who are seeking to help, it changes your life. And that's one of the things I liked about Brad Lee's speech, who we get the honor to speak with and share a stage with. But he was talking about, he's like, just, I don't care if it's 10 o'clock at night, if you haven't shaken the hand of 10 new people that day, you're not doing what you can. And it's those relationships and that network and everything of just shaking that hand, having that conversation. And it's easy. You could, my favorite way to do it is find real compliments and then compliment someone. And it's as simple as, like, Salo's running our media right now, and if I see him in the Starbucks line, hey man, nice purple shirt,
Right.
Like it's purple's my favorite color. You and I, one of the things that I just absolutely love about you and I don't care about like the whole stereotypical what guys' colors need to be.
That's
like
right.
I'm wearing hot pink shorts.
Brighter the better, baby.
Because, like for me, number one, I like it. Number two, it's a conversation starter.
And number 3, fashion is just confidence.
It really is.
So you know what? If you're confident, you can rock anything and own it, just like you do.
Fashion is confidence. I think if anyone has a takeaway, that just fashion is confidence. And it's funny because I used to think about fashion way too much. Oh, is this the newest this? Is this the new? Now it's just purely, hey, do I like that? Is it comfortable?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm much more in the comfort side of things now. But the other thing that I think we're kind of getting into in today's day and age of business is a lot of people are trying to mimic the Mark Zuckerbergs and Steve Jobs and stuff, and when they're going to a business meeting, they take their fashion and they'll say, hey, I'm going to wear sweatpants to this business meeting. Well, if you're not the one funding everything and you're not the one who called the meeting and you're not the one who did this, don't wear sweatpants. You got to pay to play, and sometimes I go get custom tailored suits. Why? Because when I need to show up, I want to show up big time.
Yeah.
And I want people to go, wow, that person's put together. You know what? If I'm paying for everything and it's a side project, and say there's probably more than a few when you're telling everyone your vision for your documentary and they show up at your house to have the meeting, there's probably some times where you were in sweatpants.
Yeah.
But you know what? If someone wants you to come speak on stage or this, that, and the other, what are the chances you show up on stage in sweatpants?
No, it's not happening. But,
Just no.
yeah, no, and they wouldn't be speaking on my stage in sweatpants.
Exactly right.
But I will say this, though. I was impressed. You can tell when someone is owning their zone, and also you can tell when someone is completely uncomfortable in what they are wearing, which is why fashion is just confidence.
Yep.
Some people can get up and literally rock a black T-shirt, jeans, and tennis shoes in their talk at no matter how big of a conference is, because that is truly
Who they
them.
are.
Them.
Yeah.
But you can still tell they care.
Yeah.
Either A, their biceps tell you they care, right? They make the black shirt look good. You're gonna wear a tee, man. You better own it.
Yeah.
But really, and I used to try to sometimes conform to, what is, and I realized who am I at my best?
Yeah.
And for you, it's a 3-piece suit a lot of times when you speak.
Yeah.
For me, is always having some flashy shoes.
Oh yeah.
Going to be my fitted jeans,
Yep.
and it's going to be a sport coat.
And
Now,
that's who you
sometimes I'll go to a suit, depends on the experience, but I will never dress down to the occasion to meet the people in the room,
Exactly.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
you want to meet people where they're at, but at the same time, people have to know that you care,
Absolutely.
and also you have to earn the right
Well,
to do that.
And that's why I've told so many of the people I'll start working with, because if we'll go into these big meetings for education or with the Department of Education, and I'll get people who will think they're well, hey, Steve Jobs does that. I'm like,
Dude, you're not Steve Jobs.
You are not Steve. You didn't invent Apple. You are not Bill Gates. You're not Mark Zuckerberg. Like, just because they do it, you don't have $100 billion behind your name yet.
Yep.
But if you develop that, cool. I will say sorry about knocking that. But yeah, and sometimes fashion is confidence, but it's also like so many people don't want to play the part. And if the part is like, think about what our job is as speakers. And this is one thing as a musician that it taught me, that I've been trying to get into the kids' minds at our school. And when I say kids, we own colleges, so it's kids are college age. But I say, listen to what you're saying. You're literally saying, if you're a motivational speaker, if you're a business coach, if you're a trainer, if you're a musician, anything, you're literally saying, I'm so good at what I do, I'm going to stand on a stage and I want you to pay attention to me. So you've got to have a seed of arrogance in there to even think you're that good. And that's okay, but understand that if they give you their respect to stand on stage and they give you their respect of their attention, you need to keep earning that by showing up and respecting the fact that they're doing that.
That's exactly right.
And when people understand your personality, like especially in your industry, everyone knows your personality.
Yeah.
So if you could show up in the brightest, loudest thing that anyone's ever seen, and everyone go, "There's Doug," and it would absolutely 100% make sense.
Yep.
You'd also probably still be the best dressed person there. It'd just be a little brighter, you know?
That's right.
But that's the thing is, you have always been really good about when someone says, "Hey, stand on my stage," or "I want you to speak at this," or "I want this." I mean, you show up and you show out. And I love that.
Well, and I think it's just a place of honor. A couple weeks ago, I was asked to speak at a church actually in Miami. And, I talk about in my book that, sometimes people are really obsessed about their titles.
Yeah.
For example, like some pastors at churches demand you to call them Pastor, let's say Bill.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but you're not my pastor. But some people are like really obsessed about their title. Just look for their name on their reserved parking space too. It'll tell you so much about the person. Yeah. But what was fascinating was at this church I was at, Steve and Mary Alessi in Metro Life here in Miami, they have a really cool culture, and those people are their pastor. Now, to me, Steve and Mary are Steve and Mary because we're friends. We do a lot of life. I don't go to their church, but they asked me to come in to speak in their church. So when I'm on stage preaching at their church and I refer to them in the audience, they are Pastor Steve. Yeah. They are Pastor Mary. Why? Because the people that I'm speaking to, the congregation, Greg, that's their pastor. Yeah. So it's you stepping off of my platform and meeting people where they're at and honoring the stage that you've been given. And it's just little soft things like that make the biggest difference for how we all go about life.
Absolutely. So, speaking of titles, and we'll maybe wrap it up here, but I think it's such an interesting thing that people are kind of going through right now is everyone wants recognition. We live in the influencer quote unquote age, and it's a little. Actually, Doug and I had a whole conversation before we did this about how when we met each other, we because both of us actually I think this is a great and when we met each other, we realized that we talked such a big game that we were waiting for the other one to basically be full of it, you know? And it's because we're so used to people not doing what they say. And we also realize we're not always around other people who are playing the same type of game we are, which is thinking big and the mindset and the heart set and the way that you live life and dreaming just huge. You know, I'll say right now, I want a private jet. I think that would be so dope. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who really knows me knows that that's going to happen. I know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of people out there who, Sal's nodding his head, yes. But there's so many people out there who'd be like, oh, that's not going to happen. There's no way. And that's why I loved when Coach Burt was talking last night. He says, don't listen to people on how expensive a jet is to own on people who haven't bought a jet.
Right.
I thought that was just, yes. But when we're talking to people, most people are literally that all talk and they're not actioned. If anything, I mean, I talk a huge game, but I'm behind the scenes working. I mean, how many times have I left at 9 o'clock in the morning? I come home at 1 o'clock in the morning. I mean, there's so many times where, and Salo, my nephew, gets to see that kind of work ethic. So if anything, there's a lot of times where we're talking and I'm telling you what I've done, not what I'm doing. And what I'm doing is always just a step beyond. It's stretching. And we play a very similar game in that because we don't take the drama, we don't take the BS, but we're always expanding and becoming more so that we can do more. And by proxy, we end up having more. But in this influencer space, everyone does the rented Lamborghini thing. Mm-hmm. Everyone does the pictures in front of stores that they didn't actually shop at. And I mean, in this age, what is your go-to thing to figure out how and who people go about their business so that you can kind of get through this influencer age, so you can figure out who someone is?
Yeah, it is. And you know, Greg, it's always being the same person.
Yeah.
Like, you know, one thing that I respect about you, and I know mutually, is that regardless of anything, like, you're the same person when this microphone goes down as today when we're out on the beach, as tonight when we're having a mojito in the piano bar, as to right here and you speaking on stage tonight here at Coach Burt's conference. And it's the little things like that. Like I go by the term of always in the room. I am always the same person in the room at all times. Yeah. And guess what? Whether I have 3 beverages in me or none, the conversation shouldn't change because, again, you know, people are like, oh, you know, alcohol, oh, it changes who you are. No, it magnifies who you are, just like money. Exactly, okay, right. So if there's something in your heart, it just comes out through the wine. Yeah. All right? Yeah. And guess what? If you have a poor relationship and unhealthy habits with money, you will either turn into a nice person because you're a nice person at heart, or if you're a dick, you turn into a bigger dick. Okay? So but the crazy thing is that literally it's okay to have your own goals, and Greg's goals doesn't have to be mine. And again, it's, I don't know, I don't lead with a carrot and stick mentality. Yeah. I literally, I was in Scottsdale driving around, and I'll go ahead and tell your audience, I don't have, like, I have a lot of nice things. Okay, you've been to my house. I have nice things by the world standards. Okay, I've gotten obsessed with my cars lately. But guess what? You can go onto my Facebook or my Insta right now, and I bet it would take you a long time, even going through my story, before you could find a true picture of anything I own. Now, they might be in the background of my kids or something, because I don't lead with stuff. Yeah. Because, again, you lead with stuff, you attract a stuff person. And a person that are obsessed with stuff sometimes have the wrong motives, and they're a whole lot more of a project than they are, worth working with. And so somebody asked me a couple weeks ago, dude, can I take some photos in front of your Escalade? And I do have a pimped out Escalade, blacked out. It's gunmetal wrap. Don't get me wrong, it's pimping. And you can probably go back to my Insta and find it. They wanted a picture. Literally, you could tell he wanted to do an Insta thing, like it was his. And I'm like, dude, I don't even have that thing on my Insta, so no, you can't take a photo. And he could do it if he wanted because we were in a parking lot. But it was just, it baffles me of this feeling that that's how they're going to show up, is if I look something. But again, it's what's going on. Show me your morning routine. Show me what you did this morning. Show me how you're practicing
your
gratitude.
calendar.
Show me your calendar before you get to take a picture with my Escalade. Because you'll have your own if you're doing these things.
If you lead with stuff, you will attract a stuff person.
Yeah.
That is absolute gold.
Yeah.
You've got to design a whole talk around that. I'm telling you, that is something that could truly change the lives of everyone. Because that's what everyone leads with now.
Yeah.
That's what matters in people's minds. And they're not it doesn't matter who the person is at heart and what you guys can accomplish together.
Right.
They're not seeking those exponential relationships. Like I always say, look, if Steve Jobs doesn't meet Steve Wozniak, Apple doesn't get started. Steve Jobs is great, but he's nothing without that exponential relationship.
That's right.
Always seek exponential relationships. And one of the things that Doug has always done for me, and I haven't talked with him about this concept before, but I know this to be true of him, and it's one of the things, it's my BS detector on if someone is who they are, is if you are operating even close to the same space, do you have a tendency to push power towards power or try to steal power? So, for instance, you're an extremely powerful speaker, personality. When you enter the room, people know that you're there. I want to help magnify you because I know that if I'm one of the people to help make you more powerful, you can make me more powerful. And it's not from, just to be very clear, power, I don't view power as a form of control. I'm not trying to control anyone. I'm trying to have more power so that I can make a bigger impact for my family, for myself, for other people in my organization. That's what power should be. If you look at any org chart and it starts at normal employee and manager and director and VP and EVP and CFO, COO, CEO, that's not who has all of the power. That's so everyone knows where they can get help from.
Right.
The employee needs to go talk to their manager. The manager needs to talk to the director. That's just the way that works. An org chart isn't someone who's in control of you. It's so that everyone knows where they can get their help from. And I think it's amazing to find people like Doug and see what happens. And he always says, sit with the winners. The conversation's different, and sit where people are fighting over the bill. And I mean, Salo has gotten so good at this. Now he doesn't quite have his own bank account yet to start pulling the bill from people, especially at some of the places we eat at. But he is now my cohort in helping me steal the bill.
Yeah.
And so it's so good. So he just knows that
He's learning from the best.
if we're going out, I'm picking it up. So he will grab the bill and steal it before anyone even knows what happened, because they're waiting for me to do something.
Right.
But I mean he's part of the family, so I mean we're working together. But that's who he's going to be when he really grows up and goes and does business. He wants to be fighting for the bill.
That's
you
right.
know,
and
about the bill.
Greg, it's important, I think, for all of you to know, because a lot of times you guys get to see Greg, and I mean, Greg, you're a multimillionaire. You have a beautiful wife. You have a massive company. You're helping kids all over the country, and I know we call them kids, but college kids, and you get to see some of this cool stuff that Greg does. But what I appreciate you most, and I was able to have a conversation with Zach last night, and all I've seen you do for as long as I've known you, which has been about 3 to 4 years, is, dude, you elevate the people around you. If you get around Greg Kimball, like, your life gets better, because you literally are a developer of people, and you want to see them thrive. And again, all the stuff is cool, but show me who you are and the people you're duplicating yourself to, and that you're developing, i.e. your nephew right here. I mean, everybody is watching, and show me who you are behind the camera as much as you are in front. And dude, you're a developer of people, man. And I know that's a legacy to what you and Kayla have done, and part of what you guys are creating. But I think it's that will go down far greater than anything else is that Greg Kimball was a developer of people, and people get around you, they have no choice but to grow or go. Because if they ain't growing, at some point they're going to be going.
They're gonna be going. Well, and I think number one, thank you so much. I really appreciate you seeing that. Literally everything that you said is that's how I feel about you, and that's one of the things why I love hanging out with people like you is because I get developed. I love being in things where they always say if you're the head of the class, get in a new class, and I love being around people like you just because I can. There's a lot of things in parts of life that you've gone through that I haven't yet. Mm-hmm. And it's so cool because then I get to kind of go to school and learn and develop, and I'm not always the developer. And I think that's one thing for people out there. If you never stop being a student, you are going to be you end up great. And you're never going to be at your peak. That you don't want to get there. And one of the things I tell people is if you look at the top of any mountain, there's no growth up there. At the base, all the growth is at the base. So if people are down on themselves and I'm in the valley, the shadow of death, and they're making hey, every valley is where all the growth is. So I don't have peaks and valleys. I just have great places and vantage points and growth phases. That's it. I'm just either looking out, but no one ever stays at the top of the mountain. They don't want to. They come back down to the valley. It's just like Denver, going up into the mountains. You don't stay in the mountains. You come back down to Denver. Come to where the growth happens, And the growth isn't always pretty. It's not. It's not always. It's certainly not always easy. But it happens when you're willing to have these kind of conversations, be with these people. Yeah. And I don't always want to be always developing. And there's been times where, like for instance, Doug was doing his podcast, and I was like, bro, there's a better way. Let me help you with the equipment side of things because, it's what we do. And he immediately was like, okay, what is this? What is not? Oh, no, I've got it figured out. No, he was immediately, and he even told me, he goes, dude, I'm so glad you told me about that. I have 2 of them now, and it's so easy for me to produce content because now his message gets out there more, which I think is good for me. Right. Why? Because it's good for our industry. Why? Because I know he's real. There's a reason it's the real Doug Wood, and I know there's a lot of people who say, oh, I'm real. Yeah. I'm telling you, this is the epitome of real. Because behind the camera, you are the exact same person.
Yeah, I'm a serial learner, man. Yeah. And when you don't let your ego get in the way, or when you have it in check, you're like, dude, there's always something to learn. I'm not going to compare notes, but I guarantee I have as many notes as anybody on this cruise ship. And you and I are both one of the speakers, so one of the advantages I had is I got to speak first. And literally, I've just been sitting back in note-taking mode on my iPhone, and my whole note section is like, dude, I got every speaker in great detail because you never stop learning, man. Yeah. And again, the moment you stop taking coaching from your coach, you'll never get it again because your coach is not going to have their head bitten off. If they tell you something like, no, I'm good, or nothing worse than I know. Well, no, you don't know because you would be doing if you knew. Yeah. But again, they're not going to keep telling you. They'll just stop telling you, and that's scary. When you don't have a truth person or a truth coach in your corner, bro, you're going to eventually walk and
walk
fall,
the plank.
Man. Yeah.
You're actively walking the plank.
Yep.
So, well, anyway, dude, thank you so much for hopping on this podcast. I appreciate you as a person. I've learned a ton from you. I love the relationship that we're building, and that's why when we were at the just right after the speaking thing happened, he was across the way, and before because he's been having earlier nights in his old age. No, I'm just
yeah.
But before he left, I was like, dude, we got to get on a podcast while you're here, just because honestly, it's a very selfish reason. I learned so much when I get to sit down with someone like this because it sparks things within me, and I get to learn from him, and so and then we capture it so that hopefully you guys can take something away from it as well. So that's why I ran over there, and I was just so excited. We grabbed a coffee in the morning and kind of talked about life and what we wanted to get accomplished here, and then we executed.
That's right, man. Anyway, it's been an honor. Thank you.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Thanks.
you.
It's the final percent. The final percent.